Hey, Omni Dogs and Omni Kittens. Omni Dog here with Omni Dog's Vault. More root beer reviews because I'm still not done with my Frost Top. Even though it's great, it's a lot of root beer for me to drink. I gotta be honest with you. This is a lot, a lot of root beer. Thank goodness it's so good. Now, this video is going to be about my Hellboy Readathon. I promised myself that I've accumulated all this Hellboy stuff, and I haven't read it since I started the floppies 15 years ago or whenever it first came out. Um, so I said, summer Hellboy Readathon. I'm going to read everything I can that I got. So this is just an update on where I am. I have read the first the first 4 library editions, plus I read the brand new Into the Silent Sea. So what is so great about Hellboy? One word. It's fun. That's 2 words. It is fun. That's 3 words. It's just fun. It's just my friend Luis Hardcover Reviews. I haven't actually watched the video yet because I don't want to be ripping any ideas from him, but I do know he said it's a very well built world that Hellboy lives in. And so far, through the first 4 volumes of the library editions, I can see what he means. The first volume concentrates on just getting the ball rolling, telling you a little bit about how Hellboy came to be. Um, he was born of an occult ritual by the Nazis, of course. When you talk about occult and Nazis and monsters and aliens, I don't know. I'm in. That is just fun to me, especially the occult angle, because I really love occult stuff. And Mike Mignola writes and illustrates a lot in the first 4 volumes. You've got the introduction of an awful lot of characters that you've grown to know: Abe Sapien and Liz and Hellboy himself and the Professor and a few other characters. So the first volume is very good, really, really good. I enjoyed it because it sets up the entire world of Hellboy and gives you a little insight into where he came from, what he's considered, why people are battling over him, why he battles evil and monsters. And it's really, really well thought out and well written. And of course, if you happen to be a fan of Mike Mignola's art, which I am, that's an extra bonus because it's all in here. Now, a word about these editions. These are cloth cover and they're not very expensive. $50, and if you get it on in stock trades, it'll be like half off, 47, 42% off. So for these volumes with cloth covers, a great value. But if you have a dog that sheds, do not put this book on the floor. It attracts dog fur like a magnet. And I'm constantly brushing these books off. So be careful if you've got a furry dog, like a golden retriever. I got a Cocker Spaniel, and she just sheds all the time. So be careful about that. Now, Hellboy Volume 2 is notable for one thing mainly, a lot of things, but it's got what I consider, and I don't want to show too much because it'll wreck it for you. I'll just show you the very beginning. It's got pancakes. Probably one of the best 2-page comic book stories ever written. It is fantastic. It's worth the price of just buying the book. Volume 2 has an awful lot of short stories in it too, where Hellboy is basically beating up monsters and saying things like, geez, and I'm tired of this, and I'm ready to finish this, and things like that. So to me, Um, Volume two sort of um, wasn't my favorite so far because there's a lot of the same thing where he's just beating up monsters, saying, "Geez, that's it. I'm done with you," and things like that, where he's fighting monsters and stuff. But it sets up the story to move along and keep going. So I did like Volume two. I didn't like Volume two as well as I liked the upcoming volumes three and four, which is where, in my opinion, Hellboy really hits its stride. With volume three, we've got long form stories, Conquer Worm, strange places, and the interesting thing is we also have the introduction of guest artists in here. Let's see, or am I wrong? Is that volume four? Um, there. Okay, so there aren't any guest artists in this book. It's all by Mike Mignola. Um, this is a great drawing right here, but this is where he really starts to hit his stride, Mike Mignola, because these are long form stories, and I think those are more interesting than the shorter stories. Um, you get introduced to more characters in here, a lot more uh, about this bit about Hellboy being an agent of destruction for the apocalypse, with a bunch of incredible occult voodooism stuff that's just thrown at you. There's just a bunch of uh, crazy words that they're always chanting about Hellboy, and it's really fun. I have to hand it to Mike Mignola. The guy can write as well as draw, which is kind of a pisser and makes me mad because he's got multiple talents. That's never really my favorite kind of person. When it's like a singer that can also play the piano, that has a great voice, something like that. Those aren't my favorite people. I mean, how come they got and they're good looking? That really makes me mad. Who the hell needs that? So the color palette is pretty interesting because it's always different kinds of colors in the book. Sometimes it pops, sometimes it's muted. It really depends on the scene, but the colors are very striking and well done. And I think that if you're a fan of Mignola, the art is great. And this is volume three is where it really starts to hit its stride. But volume four, I think, is interesting because that's where he starts handing out the artistry chores to other people with big time names like Richard Corbin and P. Craig Russell. And I have to be honest that as much as I like Mike McNeil, this is going to be a controversial opinion. It's my opinion alone. I get it if you disagree. Feel free to disagree. But I kind of like it better when Mignola is the writer and somebody else is the artist. I really, really dug Richard Corbin's art in this first story. Um, it is an excellent story called The Crooked Man. It's about witches and stuff up in these deep dark mountains. It's really an amazing story, but the artwork is so great. And after you see really clean, um, interesting artwork like this, I look at Mignola's stuff, and sometimes it seems kind of muddied to me. That, as I say, is strictly my opinion. Um, but it's hard to compete when you got somebody like Richard Corbin drawing, who is such an excellent artist. And these are there are very long, interesting stories. Um, Here's one: They That Go Down to the Sea in Ships. This was a brilliant story that I really love. Um, and it's not drawn by Mignola. It's drawn by somebody else. whose name escapes me now. Um, Let me see if I can figure it out. Blubbity blubbity blah 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 blah. Who does it? Why isn't it in here? Huh. Let's see. Maybe it's Josh Dysart who does that, or Jason Sean Alexander. Perhaps if I were a little more professional, I would have prepped for this, but instead I'm doing it all off the top of my head, um, which is probably not the best idea because there's hardly anything in my brain anyway. But that story um, is really well done, really well drawn, and I think that this apparently he gave artists the chance to draw his books because this was during the time of the filming of the two movies when he handed off the drawing chores to other people, and I think it's a great strategy because um, other people's artwork is really effective, and I like seeing other artists draw Hellboy. Even though I'm a fan of Mignola, this artwork is excellent. And let's see if I can get a sample of P. Craig Russell in here, unless that was just him. Here's some more Richard. This looks like it's some more Corbin right here. Or somebody. Whatever. It's great art. You can tell that it's late at night and I'm kind of garble headed. But this is where I think um, Hellboy really starts to grab me. Um, oh, here's story notes. Jason Sean Alexander drew They That Go Down to the Sea in Ships. That's cool. But this is where, yeah, and Richard Corbin did Macoma, which is really cool. Um, these are just interesting, fun, occult stories that are lighthearted. They introduce very interesting characters. They grab your attention because Hellboy's instantly likable, given that he's some kind of something from hell, and he has the right hand. Whoops, the right hand of doom that's basically made out of stone. Um, he cracks off his horns, so he's always walking around without his horns sticking out. He's a force for good in the world, and I can't say enough about how just entertaining and fun these stories are. It doesn't take long to burn through them. They're a quick read, but you don't want to race too far too quickly because they're such a delight. You really get to know Hellboy well. Right after this, Hellboy Volume 4, I read Into the Silent Sea, which so far to me has the best art in the series. Gary Gianni did it. And I mean, just look at that opening scene right there with all the cross hatching. That's beautiful to me. And Gary Gianni also helped write the story. Um, but this is my kind of artwork that I really dig. Um, and this is this gets read right after Volume 4 of Hellboy. And I can't say enough about how much I enjoyed this book because of all the cross hatching and the very intricate artwork that's done. And Mignola is at the top of his writing game here. He wrote it alongside with Gary Gianni, but the storytelling is top notch. And my understanding after this, I'm following the reading order, is where I really get into the meat of the Hellboy universe because I'm going to be reading BPRD Plague of Frogs, volumes 1 through 4. And I'm looking forward to that because that's where I get introduced to the rest of the BPRD more fully in character. Mm-hmm. more fully in character. I learn more about each member of the BPRD, and I'm really looking forward to reading those books because those are supposed to be just fantastic books. So that's where I am in the summer Hellboy Readathon. As always, OmniDog's Vault, you can drop me a line in the comments. I'll try and answer them. Kind of a newbie to the Hellboy universe, but I guess I'm not even a third of the way through because I still got all kinds of Witchfinder and Abe Sapien and all these other books to read. But I'm looking forward to diving into BPRD, and we'll go on this journey together. Maybe if you haven't read Hellboy, this has tipped the scales in favor of tracking it down, and it's not hard to find. Um, they're available in paperback, the BPRD, and these library editions are gorgeous. So we'll go down this journey together. Maybe you'll start your own summer readathon of Hellboy. All right. Well, thanks so much for tuning into Root Beer Reviews. I still haven't finished this root beer, which is delightful, but I'm full. I can't drink anymore. So I think that's going to be it for root beer reviews for a couple days. Maybe I'll post a haul or a collection video or something, or I'll come up with something else. But I'm full of root beer, man. So thanks for tuning in. Leave comments. I appreciate all my subscribers and anybody that takes the time to write. And take it easy. Peace and love. Peace and love. Thanks.